Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the only podcast produced by three two-time winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award. You're listening to the Check Engine Podcast. We're hosted on Anchor.fm and streamed worldwide on all the platforms that you use to listen to your favorites. My name is Nick. Joining me, as they do every single week, are my two partners in crime, Andrew and Tristan. Guys, what is happening? How have you been?
Ooh, I've been pretty good. The weather has definitely taken a turn for the bearable. So that's been helpful.
Yeah. Starting on, Sunday, I guess, which was great for the second day of the doubleheader at Road America.
Oh, right.
We roasted on Saturday.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Definitely getting better here. A little more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Tristan? I heard you laugh. You're out there?
Yeah, I'm out there. So I didn't know. I thought I know everybody was done. I laughed at the turn for the bearable because, yes.
Indeed.
I've been fighting my nemesis, the soil. For the better part of a week. We've been
Mother Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Mother Earth herself stands between me and victory. Digging a very long trench to put in our drain pipes, and it has been quite the battle.
I guess, yeah. This has been ongoing.
Let's say this was we talked about. You were talking about this the last time we recorded.
I did, and the weather made a turn for the bearable, and I was able to complete it and get the hitch on the Outback. So,
that's right. Yes.
Would have seen on our Instagrams.
Yeah, very popular post for the last couple days. Well done, sir. And I heard it easy, painless.
Yeah. Like we had to remove one trim piece, which requires like 5 little like snap-in fasteners, and then you got to undo like 8 or 9 little clips, which were kind of fiddly, but that was actually the hardest part, was those stupid 9 clips. Other than that, it's just 6 bolts. Done.
Great.
Nice.
So very, very easy, looks good, minimal cutting, and everyone's happy.
Good. Awesome, guys. Well, Andrew, why don't you tell the audience what the focus of our episode is going to be this week?
Well, let's see. We've been trying a little too hard lately. So this week, what we're going to do is just sit around. No, this week we are going to tell some of our personal car stories. So this is like the codex, right, of the video game, where you go to find all the history that they didn't put in to the main storyline. So secrets will be revealed, I'm sure, and interesting history will definitely be told.
Yeah, this is going to be cool because, as we discussed, the last time we really told any stories was probably episode number 1, where we told about our first cars and driver's tests, and I think we covered learning to drive stick, at least Andrew and I at that point, because Tristan hadn't got his stick shift car yet. So like that was the last time, and that was damn near 100 episodes ago. So kind of a fireside chat type of, gather around, kids, let me tell you about the time.
Fireside chat.
The tale of my whatever.
Yes.
So this is going to be fun. This one might go a while, and I feel like Tristan is going to, if there was a competition, Tristan is going to crush us.
Definitely.
Because of all the stuff he has shared just on his road trip experiences, and just from the fact that he is probably one of the best, if not the best storyteller I've come across in my life. He makes it interesting and fun to listen to.
Oh,
Those compliments.
That's high praise. Yeah.
If there's
I think,
if there's an episode
Nick,
that Tristan
you have
could
me in
win,
miles, I think.
if there's an episode that Tristan could win outright, like really handily, I feel like it's going to be this one, if we were keeping track. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to hear some of this stuff we were talking about earlier. Folks, we've got like stories we can tell together, things we experienced at the same time. The infamous GTI episode is going to come up, I'm sure. So it's going to be a fun episode. First, does anybody have any sort of pace slaps or news or anything?
I have a neat car news. I have one.
You have neat car news?
I have one. Finally, okay. I saw something that was actually, well, I don't know if it was worth putting my eyes on, but it was something I had to put my eyes on. And now you have to hear about it. Well, okay, so I've seen like a couple weird, what I think are probably like dealer special editions on the road lately. Like I saw like a Your Vintage Colorado Nick, but it was like a Green Bay Packers edition, which I think is probably fake. Just
probably fake.
Like a Texas this and a Arizona that. Mostly Cadillacs. This shit's on Cadillacs. But
so far all GMs.
Yes.
Indeed. And this one also is a GM product and is actually yet another Cadillac that didn't have a badge on it, but I have to believe that it was a special edition. So let me describe it to you. So it was a 8th generation DTS DeVille. So it's like, the big car.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of hard to describe. It's basically all just like softened rectangles, right? From the front to the back, like everything's just that single shape. Navy blue, gold wheels, white wall tires, a white gold stripe that ran down the side with some like squiggles in it, sort of like a 90s style, almost like a truck side stripe in the middle of the door. Gold badging, gold accents, and something I've never seen. Oh God, a Landau top, right? Of course.
I was going to ask, does it have a Landau top?
It does.
I had to know
a black Landau top with some dude's name on the side in gold. Like, you're not fooling anyone. Still not a convertible, and a spoiler on the back.
That seems out of place.
Oh boy!
It was a sight to behold. I don't understand. I've never seen a Cadillac with a spoiler. And it was like one of the classic sort of like 3 support, very low to the trunk roof, like 90s style. That you remember that fad where those were on everything. It was one of those.
Huh.
It seems so bizarre.
The spoiler seems out of place.
Definitely that. I've seen everything else on a Cadillac except for the spoiler. But I was looking so I looked up the DTS after I saw it. Like, what the hell? I mean, if you were going to do all of that to a car, you definitely could have picked a worse one. I mean, it's 300 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque, 4-speed automatic. Magnetic suspension though, and navigation. So like it could definitely be worse.
Oh yeah.
I just think this guy might have been really, really proud of his DeVille.
Well, you know what? More power to them. More power to him.
And make no mistake, it was absolutely hideous to behold. But sometimes that is what happens sometimes. Nothing you can do.
But it's what makes it neat.
Exactly.
Speaking of Cadillac, did you guys see that starting with their first electric vehicle, they are going away from just the letter and number in their car naming?
Oh, I don't care.
I did.
They'll be back.
The Lyric.
The Lyric, Lyriq. And the reason
Whatever.
they're doing it is because they claim to be in more song lyrics than any other brand, which may be true. I don't know who can verify that, but and it's IQ, and I guess every name that they're coming out with now moving forward is going to end in IQ.
That is so stupid.
Yep.
And all I'm going to do is pronounce them with a French accent.
Wait, how the
Lyrique.
fuck? Okay, so they're getting rid of the Escalade name, which is the only thing they make that has any cachet or relevance.
What? I missed that song.
How are they gonna do that with an IQ? Escalade? No, it's just not gonna fucking work.
Well, I don't think
Escaladique.
Oh Jesus!
Escaladique. I don't know.
Yeah.
They never mentioned anything about the Escalade. I thought it was like new vehicles. I don't know if they're like changing the names of existing.
I didn't even read this. If I see anything about Cadillac, I don't read it.
Yeah. Anyway, I wasn't even going to talk about that, but the fact that you saw a neat Cadillac just brought it up. So
That's insane.
did you guys see it? I don't think it's confirmed yet, but the Drive has a report from Japan on the next gen Type R.
No, I haven't heard this one.
Is that the one with the electric rear axle?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, they're taking what they learned with the NSX, with the electric front axle, but they're flipping it and putting it on the rear. So it's a torque vectoring, all-wheel drive layout, electric motor on each rear wheel. Again, reported, not confirmed. Boost from the current 306 horsepower to 395 horsepower.
Okay.
In the next generation Type R. Damn.
Interesting.
Damn. Like, and that's just saying, I mean, not a special edition. Like, you just want a Type R, you're going to get almost 400 horsepower. Starting in, well, it's expected to arrive for 2022.
Okay. All right. I mean, good for them.
That's almost like, I can't remember the horsepower figure on a Megane, but like the Megane RS, but that's like
Probably is.
uber horsepower for a hot hatch.
It is, and I mean, kind of the opinion that the Type R now already has basically too much, and that seems like far too much for a front-wheel drive car.
Well, the good news is it's an electric rear axle, so it's a good chunk of that is going to come out of the back, which makes it more manageable.
True.
Yep.
True.
Yeah, that's where the boost is coming from. Also, first comment at the bottom of this article: will it remain just as aesthetically displeasing?
Oh, dude! Wait,
And
actually, something
the
related
reply
to that.
the reply to that was what? You don't want it to look like a Gundam pilot?
Too true. Okay, wait. Where was this article? I want to see if I can find the source. Autoblog. To their European publication. They have pictures of the Type R parts from Mugen, who are occasionally official tuners of Honda. And the headline is Mugen parts for Honda Civic Type R show rare restraint. And I take that as saying they looked at the shit and went, well, I guess we'll just make it go faster. And because we've already talked about on this podcast, it is super corny looking. And yeah, they couldn't make it more ridiculous without making it outlandish. So, whoops.
It's borderline outlandish now.
It is.
Yeah.
So we're right about that, is my point.
Yep, we were right.
I have an odd piece of news from a country called China.
Okay.
Where's that?
It's in Asia. It's in China. So,
Clever.
Dongfang Motor Corporation, maker of a ton of stuff, and I know they have partners as well, and I don't actually know who they are, but possibly GM, if I'm remembering right, and it doesn't really matter. They're going to launch their own premium, quote-unquote, new energy vehicle, so assuming electric and hydrogen, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Fusion.
Yeah, but
That's the new energy.
right. But there is a major problem with this brand that I can see. It's called
What?
It's called the letter H.
That's it?
Just H.
It's just called H.
Don't pronounce it. It's just H.
Yeah.
What kind of car do you want to go shopping for? An H.
Are you sure? Because maybe you're supposed to make the sound of that letter, like it's a word.
Well, what do they say?
Oh, the H.
The H.
It's just literally a lowercase h in quotes.
Maybe that's the name of the company. Lowercase h in quotes.
LLC.
There's a lot left up to translation here. So I think that's already a mistake. And you definitely won't win any fans in America.
No.
Maybe it's supposed to represent the sound it makes because there's no combustible engine noise.
Ooh, he's going deep now.
Not if there's hydrogen. Depends on what kind of hydrogen.
Maybe it stands for hydrogen. Oh, snap. Didn't see that coming.
Hydrogen hybrid?
Chemical symbols, bro. It's all in play here. That everything we're saying is equally as likely as the other thing.
And you know what? We're talking about
true.
it. So whatever it is, it's working.
I guess. No one's going to remember. I certainly won't remember this after, immediately.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Does anyone give a shit about the Bronco?
It's here.
Only from the standpoint of Jeep's response, which is immediately a social media ad that says, taking on the world for however many years they've been around. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, so you do see it as, competition.
Well,
and the sheer number, two things about it. I think that Jeep does see it as competition, and the sheer number of things that you can put on this from the factory, that's a little astonishing. The last time I've seen an accessories push like this was when the Mini Cooper released, and you get flag vinyls on the roof.
The last time you saw this was the Gladiator. The Gladiator had a huge selection of parts at launch, and more now, obviously, but a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a simply astonishing number when I read it. I didn't save the article, but it was like 2,000 parts or something like that. It was some crazy, it was really high. I'll see if I can find it, once we move on. But
I mean, I have a problem with the way people are reacting to this. They're like, oh, the Bronco's back. The competition never stopped. It's like, nope, 1996. It's the last time there was a fucking Bronco around. And the only reason it stayed in consciousness, the only reason is the OJ meme. I fully believe that. Because Ford has never cared about the Bronco.
That was going to be my interesting factoid for this discussion. You know that they had to the launch was pushed back 2 weeks. Right? Yes. Do you know why the launch was pushed back by 2 weeks?
Yes, because they scheduled it on OJ's birthday. I think intentionally. I think they did it on purpose so they could push it back and be like, whoa, that's fucking crazy, you guys.
What a coincidence.
Who knew? Does he have a history with the Bronco? How can you keep track of these things? No, fuck you. Don't. Just like sometimes you hear a song on the radio and you're like, oh, that's a plant. This is 100% a plant. That's a narrative being pushed, and I don't buy it.
I just thought it was funny.
But you know what? The best part about the Bronco?
What's that?
One of the trim levels is the Outer Banks edition.
OBX.
Oh, and you can get front seats that have Molly webbing on them. So
who's webbing?
That's fun. MOLLE.
Molly's?
Molly. Yeah, That one.
I don't know her. What's she do?
Yeah, what kind of webbing is that?
It's a military kind. She's in the military.
Good.
Carries a lot of stuff.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very weirded out by the reaction to this thing coming back and the way people are getting so A, excited, and B, like...
The more I'm reading about this, I can't... I can only assume that this is all a big joke. It actually isn't going to be produced. I think this is all a hoax. To quote, to quote the Republicans' favorite word, it's all a hoax. Because it has things like goat mode. What?
What's that?
And the trim levels are Big Bend, Outer Banks, Badlands, and First Edition.
Yeah, the famous mountain.
Yeah, Badlands and First Edition get washable interiors and 2 extra goat modes.
Tristan, it's your favorite thing, washable interiors, like on your favorite car.
Yeah, not hosable though. Do not do that to the inside of my car. That it's not for.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because nothing has really gone on, and it's got a big schmancy configurator, and I don't know.
We did do a whole episode on that, so
that is super true. But that was stolen content, first of all, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't really buy what I'm seeing. I think because in my mind, if people are this excited about it now, they have to keep that same energy going for a while, because that's how insane to my eyes the reaction is. People are like, oh, Bronco, it's the only car I've ever wanted. It's the only thing. Look at this picture. Have you seen this angle? Have you seen this fucking color? Oh my God, it's a Bronco. And it's not going to be like this next week.
No, it never is post-launch.
I don't know.
It's not shiny or new anymore. Something else will come out.
But keep that same energy. I've been stoked about the Veloster N for like 2 years.
I saw one.
Oh, God. Every time I see one, it's like the fucking clouds part and a beam of light shines down from heaven onto it. And I'm like, oh, my God, I want it so much.
Yeah, I saw one parked just outside the Red Circle Inn on my way home. From where was it? Maybe it might have been on the way home from one of the Road America days.
I've seen 3 in this area: blue, black, and red.
I think this one was the blue, the N blue.
Yeah. Oh, love that car. Anyways.
Anywho's. All right, guys. Time. You want me to reveal my surprise?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Nick's been threatening us with a surprise for this episode for a while.
All right. So, it is about that time. Y'all should, if you got your phones close, take a peek at what's coming through.
I'm scared. Is this going to change the nature of our relationship?
I don't think so. I hope not. So, it says it's sent on my end.
Oh, my God!
Andrew got it.
I have it.
2015
Nice.
Ford Focus ST is in my garage as of last night.
God damn, that looks good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Is
So
it relatively unmolested by the previous owner?
it's in great shape. One previous owner, 35,000 miles on it. Didn't drive it in the winter. Garage kept, maintenance all up to schedule, like to a T, through the place that I bought it from. So they have all of the maintenance records. They just threw a new set of tires on it, some new Hankooks. I've been talking about this with you guys for a little while, but the guy a friend of the family's who I bought the Colorado through went to a new dealership. And I just texted him and said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. You know what I have to trade in. I obviously want to do business with you. If you have anything, what do you have?
Wait, the Colorado's gone?
Colorado's gone, dude. Traded that in.
Oh, shit.
Oh, see, I thought it was
Just an addition to? No.
Yeah.
because that's what we were talking about.
No. Colorado is gone.
Wow. What about the trailer?
So, in the meantime, can use my dad's Equinox to tow for the couple of times that I'm going to need it for the rest of this year. Mm-hmm. And then just looking for a winter beater / tow vehicle for the future. Something that's like I can just write one check for and pay it. No, don't need to like finance anything type of deal.
Right. Wow.
So, I told Dan, like, you know what I have? I bought it through you a couple years ago. Like, do you have anything on your lot? Because I want to do business with you. And here's my time frame. And I told him like August. I told him a little bit later. And he's like, we actually just got this one in like a week ago. And he sent me the price. And I got back to him. I'm like, so I'm looking just on a basic cars.com search, and there's a bunch of stuff, similar model year, similar mileage, etc., for like $3-4 grand less than what you're offering. Mm-hmm. Like, what gives? And he comes back and goes, so the third party that does all of our website stuff put the wrong price on it. It's actually $5,000 less than what we're showing on our website.
Hey.
So I'm like, now we're talking. And hey, just kind of like what the Subaru dealership did with Tristan. Like, they ran the numbers. I had a ton of positive equity in the Colorado. Like, the trade-in value on that was actually worth more than the sticker on this Focus.
Damn.
Right.
So price was right. Cut my car payment in by a third, like my monthly payment now, the way it's financed. Dan at if for anybody in the southeastern Wisconsin, Lake Chevrolet or Lake Automotive Group, Dan Anderson, and I hope I pronounced his last name right, Matt Buccio, Buccio. They took great care of me. Awesome customer service, super easy, simple, in and out. And I was able to bring it home last night. Finally, for the first time, have like a stick shift car as my daily. That fun car that I've been wanting, and thank God I'm driving a go-kart, because otherwise the handling characteristics would be totally foreign to me.
Yeah,
like,
no, I
steering
love that
input,
car.
throttle input, braking input, turn radius, like just night and day from the truck. And there was nothing wrong with the Colorado. Like, I love that vehicle. It worked, did everything it was supposed to, was great. Just wasn't like, never filled the bed up, never used it as a truck, towed with it, like I said, half a dozen times a year. So like, why even, like, I don't need all that. So, downside is we don't have a lot of places to go because of COVID. So unless I just go out and drive around,
yeah, which is perfectly valid, by the way.
It's perfectly valid. I can probably go do it. We did last night. My dad went with me to pick it up. As soon as we got home, I tossed him the keys. I'm like, here, you drive it. And then he drove it around for a while. And then he came back, and then, Claire's like, let's go for a ride. I'm like, okay. And then so we did a little bit of that last night when I got it home. But outside of just like going for random drives, not a lot of places to take it right now.
Sure.
But I'm so excited. I'm so fired up. I already ordered my rally armors. They're on the way.
There you go.
Going to get the mud guards on it. I'm looking at a new air filter, a performance air filter, weighing out some.
I wonder if they can be loaded with a different vehicle set. I've got a Cobb Access port,
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because I unpaired it from my Rex, and I didn't give that to the dealer.
Nice. Well, we can look it up. We'll get together on that. But yeah, so that's surprise. Nick's got a new car.
That is awesome.
I couldn't let Tristan outdo me.
I mean, Access Port V3 right there. Ford Focus.
Yeah, so long as I can load Ford Focus maps onto it, we can definitely do that.
That would be dope.
I mean, it definitely seems like it. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Wow.
Sweet, man.
I can't believe you actually did it.
I can't either. Like, I was expecting like I said, to wait a little while longer, maybe even until past the karting season. But just looking, I went and looked at this, and it was, the couple imperfections on it just from wear and tear, they fixed right away. There was like 2 small paint chips on the right rear bumper, and they, instead of just touching it up, Dan sent it into the paint booth in the body shop. Wow. And had him like sand it down, buff it, do the whole thing on it. Jesus. Yeah, like it looks like it just rolled off the assembly line. It's
that white's dope.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, can't wait to take you guys for a spin in it, one at a time, because there's no back seat.
Andrew,
what?
Andrew,
what?
We have an Oreo now.
What?
Black, white, black.
You have a black car.
True.
He has a white car, and I have a black car.
But why did you address that to me? Like, I would just love that.
I don't know.
What was that? What just happened? Like, oh man, who'd really like this one? You are correct. We do have an Oreo.
Anyway, so moving on. I have a new Ford Focus. Once the episode comes out, we'll post pictures on social, so y'all can gaze at it and see how amazing it is. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that should be enough for Pace Laps, because we're already a long ways into this episode and we haven't done any plugs or told any actual stories. So
too true.
Well, getting new cars is kind of a car story.
I guess that was the first story of the episode. We'll call it that. The first story of the episode. But before we get into any more stories on this episode, we need to take a quick break, folks. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back, everybody, and we're about to get into tonight's main topic, which is our Fireside story time. But before we do, we'd like to remind you how to get a hold of us if you feel so inclined. To start, we have our very own website, checkenginepodcast.com, and there we have an email address. It is inbox@checkenginepodcast.com. We're also on social media. You will be seeing pictures of the new Focus very soon on these channels. So for Facebook, you can search Check Engine Podcast. Andrew, where can they find us on Twitter?
At Check Engine Pod.
And
is that DUH?
Yes, absolutely.
Good luck, everyone. And Tristan, on Instagram, where can they find us?
Check Engine POD, no UH for that. Check Engine Pod.
Got it. Cool. So be sure to like, follow, share, post, DM, reach out how and when you can. Ask us questions to answer on the air. Tell us what you like, what you dislike. Give us topic ideas, what you want us to discuss on the air here. Anything you want. Just get in touch with us whenever you can. Thank you in advance. Now, to get back to the show, it's time to talk car stories, mechanical maladies, road trips that were just epic. Just anything that revolves around cars or road trips or this hobby of motoring that we love so much. And it's something we haven't had a chance to do since our very first episode, so I thought it'd be good to get back to it. I don't know who's got one that they want to start with. I guess my Focus story was one that just that was my first one, so I'll defer to you guys.
I can start because I won't have that many, but I'll tell you about the time I learned the difference between all-season tires and all-season sport tires.
Okay.
This was, let's see, it was a little while ago. I had my Elantra, and I'd gotten that car a year or two after my brother got the similar version, just like the previous generation, which is just like a lightly facelifted version. And he'd bought some bigger wheels for it that looked really good. So when he got rid of that car, he gave me the wheels. And
I can say that those wheels did look great, by the way.
Actually, it made it look like a Volvo, but for some reason it just or a Saab or something. But they looked really good, considering they were just the cheap, shitty ones you buy, off the internet from some company that designs the wheels almost to infringe on other people's patents, but not quite.
Yeah, they were almost NKs, right?
Yeah. ADR, I think, was the brand. Anyways. So let's see. I'm trying to remember when this might have been, and I think it must have been when I was at Nebraska. Like, I'd come home for winter break, and that's what it was. And I had these Continental sportier, like, all-season tires on them, and didn't really think anything of it. Was hanging out at a friend's house. Started to snow, no big deal. We were watching a movie or something. Who the hell knows? I get outside and there's about like 4 inches of snow on the ground, but it had actually started with a little bit of light drizzle. And I was like, it's not that far home. Maybe 3/4 of a mile. Maybe.
The Wisconsin special.
Indeed. I'll be fine. I get out the driveway and realize, I can't steer or accelerate or brake this thing reliably. And every way out of this neighborhood is steeply uphill.
I live here now.
This was complicated by the fact that this was a 2005. So it didn't have ABS, it didn't have traction control, and it didn't have anything else. So it was just me and a right foot. And not really a left foot, but I did have a manual e-brake. So I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can make this happen. So I turn off the music in the car, and I try to estimate.
Of course, you need to focus.
Oh, yeah. I try to estimate which way has the least hills. So there's basically 2 directions I can go. One is very steeply uphill onto a very busy divided highway. So I thought, all right, that might not be so bad, but the issue is you have to get over the crest of the hill without getting into the divided highway, and you won't be able to see it or stop when you get to the top of the hill because I'm going to have to be doing tire speed infinity just to get up how steep the hill is. And there was another way that had more gently sloping hills all on back roads, but the issue with that is that one of the turns was a 90-degree left hand at the bottom of 2 hills. It was just like right, in the middle of the U between the 2 hills. And I was like, okay, for some reason, I thought that was the better option. So I take off and, indicated 65 miles an hour on the roads just to go up slight hills. And it was probably 5. And up the first hill, I realized I was not going to make it. So why was I doing this? So what I did was put the car in neutral, let it roll back down the hill, and this first hill ended in a culvert. So that was relatively flat. Let it roll all the way back down the hill and just very carefully braked it. It was late at night. Thank God there was no one else on the road. Like, I didn't see a single car. And I started my run at this hill. Made it up the first hill. It's going up. It's up to the left, and there's a right hand that starts to go down. Make it to the right hand. Realize that there was no conceivable way that I'm going to stop for the left hand turn at the bottom of the hill, and I literally had to skateboard it between the 2 hills until I was going fast enough to make it back to the corner that I had to make, but slow enough that I could get the car turned to make the corner. And for some reason only then did I realize that this was a really fucking stupid idea. But at that point, I was already halfway home and too far gone to turn around and go back and stay at my friend's house. And why I didn't just do that in the first place, I have no idea, because there would have been no reason to leave, except I guess like a moment of manliness. I don't know, stupidity.
Well, hindsight's always, what do they say, 20/20? So
yeah, absolutely.
But I love how you're like, I'm halfway home now. I might as well just grind this out.
Had to do it. Had to grind it out. So
it would be almost worse going back.
I'm going to finish
downhill.
this.
It might have been worse going back on hill, yeah. And so I had to finish it. And the final road that I knew was going to be a problem, you guys will probably both know this, is Maple Ave. And so the only problem with this, the last horrified moment I had, there's a absolutely blind corner on this road. It's not like, it's like a 35-mile-an-hour road, so normally it's not a big deal. However, in the snow, it's a properly banked corner, but people crash there all of the time. And in going in both directions, I don't know what it is. Something about that corner just really throws people off. And I realized that I was going to have to take that corner because it is uphill as fast as I possibly could. And I mean, long story short, I end up having to rally car my Elantra around this corner just to get it to go. And I hit a dry patch and it snaps back the other direction. And it's just like, it was so dumb. It was probably one of the stupidest things I've ever done. However, I did make it home. And only then did I get out and look at my wheels and go, oh, that's why. They were just summer tires that could perform in the wet. And for some reason that was called like a multi-season tire. So stupid. That is how I learned the difference.
Multi-season, not all season.
Exactly. That is how I learned the difference between all-season tires and a all-season sport tire.
I think that's a perfect segue into another hindsight is 2020 moment of blind manliness. What have you, whatever you want to call it. And Nick alluded to it earlier. You all were there. It's the infamous GTI incident. So,
dun, dun, dun.
Have you ever destroyed something someone else loved?
That's what this was. No. I would say we did not destroy that car because it went on to be destroyed by the person who loved it. It gave its life for him and a little child. So it ended up dying a noble death instead of this distinctly ignoble and very stupid death that it would have had. What I don't remember about the story is that we were all at my house.
We were.
Yeah, I don't remember why. I don't know if we were just hanging out or whatever.
We were just hanging out. I think were we in that room in the basement? Were we doing like Halo?
We were playing Halo. We were playing Halo 3.
Yeah,
that's
the Halo
right. So,
multiplayer.
As you do when you're young and done playing Halo, you're immediately hungry for Taco Bell.
Yes.
So
game fuel.
We decide, hey, let's go take my dad's GTI into Waukesha to go get Taco Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Great idea.
And and honestly, when we left, we had heard that there might be a thunderstorm. When we left, it wasn't all that concerning.
True.
However, while we were at said Taco Bell, and all of the phones went off, alerting us to not only a tornado watch, in fact, a tornado warning.
See, that's the thing. You had a smartphone at the time. I didn't.
I did. Yep. And there was a tornado warning actually in effect, much less a watch. Mm-hmm. So that means they had seen one. And I looked at the radar and I went, that's coming up from the south. I bet we can beat it home.
I remember the siren going off.
Words.
Well,
yep, the siren went off and I was like,
while we're eating in the Taco Bell, like the skies outside, like it was so black.
It looked like the Wizard of Oz.
It was Wizard of Oz black, and the rain was hitting the side of hitting the windows at the restaurant so hard, like we were like having to talk at like an elevated volume just to hear one another inside the restaurant. And we're sitting at the same little fast food table.
And I say to myself, we can beat this home. And you know what these guys did? Nothing.
We were in a GTI. Of course we were going to beat it home.
So it is pouring rain, like Nick had mentioned. We run out of the Taco Bell and jump into the car because we were parked right next to the door. And we take off. Let's get home. We don't make it, Andrew. That's like 2 blocks.
It's less than that. I actually live. Yeah. I live about 200 yards now from where this happened, and the distance
of this story,
and the distance between the train track that caused us problems and the Taco Bell is about half a city block. It's within line of sight.
So almost no distance. And folks, if I can do a little bit of, education, public service announcement, whatever. When they tell you don't drive through water you don't know how deep it is, definitely don't drive through any water. Because you never know how deep it is, because when it's pouring rain at the rate of several inches an hour, the half to 3/4 of an inch of rain that's just kind of stacked up on flat pavement, that splashes just as well as the 5 inches of water that are on the other side of the train tracks.
It was so much more than 5 inches.
Yeah, it was more than 5 inches.
Well, it couldn't have been because
I think the road washed out underneath there.
We're skipping ahead because here's bouncing, splashing water aside, I don't see anything wrong. I go plowing right in, suddenly realize I'm slowing down dramatically, and the reason my headlights are dim is because there's water on them.
That was true.
However, that's being thrown up by the front splitter. And do you know what's right there at the front? The air intake.
True.
So the GTI detects that not all might be well with the universe at the moment, and says, I think I'm done. I'm going to have to dry out before I go any further, and dies.
See, that's so interesting. I mean, you were driving, obviously, you know what the car felt like, but I was in the back seat. And what I remember is we crested this train track. And like I said, I drive over this train track now basically every day because that's how close I live to it. And the height of that train track on both sides, if you're standing on the pavement 10 yards either side, is almost to my shoulders now.
Yes.
It's a huge peak to go over this train track. What I remember seeing from the back seat was Tristan, we went over this train track, and on the other side was apocalyptic water.
Yes.
And Tristan, like a G, moved to the center of the road where he knew it was higher and almost made it. He was going the proper speed. He had incredible instincts, to his credit. He was moving the right speed. He was pushing a bow wave, and then the car jerked. And then maybe that was the engine shutting down, or
it was,
or whatever else. And it just died there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I was also in the back
point,
seat. I just remember a nosedive. Like we went over that tracks, and like the nose of the vehicle just like disappeared. It felt like almost like the first drop on a roller coaster for a split second. I'm like, this isn't right.
So now we have a car that is not moving and is actually noticeably, measurably beginning to float.
Yes. That is the horrifying feeling.
So we're like, we have to get out and get this out of here, or we're going to end up well down the train tracks in this little impromptu river Waukesha has thrown together for us.
Again, Tristan's instinct. Within 5 seconds of the car showing up, I said, we need to get out and push it right now.
Get out. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
So we all
We
had to
got
take,
out.
we took the stuff out of our pockets, wallets, phones, everything, like put them on the highest spots in the car we could find, like tucked them under the sun visors the best as possible, like as high as you can get everything that's valuable to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then pushed the car out of the water into the lumberyard parking lot, where we then called my dad and said, I have bad news. So his diagnosis was it'll be fine to start once it dries out, but there's probably other stuff wrong we should get it checked out for.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're not going anywhere until it dries out. So we're just kind of hanging out. At this point, we're soaked through because, we had gotten out into shin-high water. And
I remember some water actually pouring in when we opened the doors.
No water came into the car.
Really?
No.
That is 100%. There was nothing in the footwells. It was lapping at the door sills, probably because it was starting to float. But that is the one proud moment. I damn near ruined that car, but if it had gotten actual flood damage, then that would have been it.
Yeah.
And, but it didn't. The lapping at the door sills, when we got out, the whole car lifted, and then it was safe, and then we could go and push it out.
We did.
So we're sitting there waiting for the car to dry out, but outside the car because my dad hadn't arrived yet. We didn't have any towels. We're not going to sit in the car and let it get wet from us sitting in it. So we're just sitting there kind of leaning against the car, watching all hell break loose around us with the storm of the century. The water gets higher and higher and higher and higher.
And we're like, we have to do something because we drove into that at a low point. The water was high, but it was comparatively low to how the water was now, which was rising up the tracks. So I remember wading into this. It was at our waists at least. Yep. And trying to get people to stop fucking driving into this lake because on either side, right, you couldn't see how deep it was anymore. It just now looked like flat road, even though this mountainous train track was in the middle.
Yeah, I remember, and it didn't work. How many cars did we actually? I know there was a minivan. Was there a pickup truck as well that we had to push out?
I remember one guy with a car. I was trying to get him to stop. Like I'm clearly standing. He should have been able to see how deep the water was because I was standing in it above my shorts,
up to your belt loop,
trying to get him to stop, literally waving my arms like, no, don't come in here. And he was going, probably almost the speed limit of the road, like 25, 30 miles an hour, and just right into the water until his car died. And I just shrugged at him. I was like, what? And he looked at me, he was fucking surprised.
Like, and here's us. Then
what's going to happen?
Basically, don't worry, don't get wet. We're already boned. So we collected probably 4 or 5 other cars in that Blifford parking lot.
Yeah. People would stop. It would just be like, put it in neutral. Push them out.
I consider that payment for our hubris.
Indeed.
Remember that cop that showed up and was getting all mad at us for loitering?
Yeah. I can't go anywhere, man.
What are you guys doing here? We're like, well, our car broke down. Well, you can't hang out here for too long. It's like, well, what do you want us to do? We don't have a car, man. You're welcome for getting it out of the street.
I believe myself in a fit of talking back to cops, which is not my style. I went, well, where are you with your lights on stopping people from driving into that giant puddle over there? Maybe you should try that instead.
Yeah, and then you're welcome for clearing the road out 4 times for you.
God, that's so funny.
Didn't somebody from the Waukesha newspaper come over?
Yeah, the Freeman.
The Freeman
came and talked to us.
We got a little article in the Waukesha Freeman because of it.
I don't remember that. What I do remember is the guy on the Harley with this Screaming Eagle air intake. And the reason I know that is because he rode into this lake, and the only things above the water were his handlebars, the air intake, and his nipples to his head. Everything else on the bike was 100% underwater. And it just, and then away he went. And I was like, oh my fucking God, it worked. Do you remember that?
I do.
I do now. Yes, I do now.
We only saw two people survive: the guy on the Harley and the guy in the actual Wrangler.
Yes,
who looked at that and went, "I knew I bought this for a reason.
I've been waiting my whole life."
He looked at us and this went and nodded his head, and you could see him put it in 4 low and just crawl through.
Oh man!
And that night was the first and only time I ever got to drive the GTI, even though I'd asked you and your dad every time I had seen you since you bought it. You finally let me drive it.
It's true.
I fully expect you to return the favor with the ST and never allow me to drive it until it needs to go to the shop.
That's right. So,
and limp home mode it was.
Yeah. It was. So the shop that that Tristan, your family, goes to was very close to my parents' house where I was living at the time. And I remember we were just drenched through, like we had just gotten out of a swimming pool, basically. And Tristan, your dad, looks at me and goes, "Well, you get your wish. Here's the keys. You're going to drive it back to your house."
I don't quite remember how that worked out, but I went with you, Nick, and I don't remember for what reason.
Did I drop you off at your car? Like back at Tristan's house, and then I drove it back to my house? Because I remember I drove it back to my house, and here I am in this sport compact hatch that I wanted to drive forever, and I was under no circumstances allowed to get it over third gear or 30 miles an hour. So I was going down the shoulder of the highway, like Highway 67, with the flashers on and white smoke pouring out the back. It looked like a blown engine in a race.
To be fair, that was definitely steam.
Yeah, it was just steam.
Well, yeah, but it's what it looked like.
Fine. I know. I'm kidding.
It was crazy. It was absolutely nuts.
I would say the GTI recovered about 95% from that. The clutches on the DSG were never quite the same, but it recovered pretty well. And it doesn't need its whole own story, but that wasn't even my car, and I did a pretty solid number on that car with the flood, and then I took it out to my mom's house in Virginia, and going over the mountains in West Virginia in the winter, I hit like roughly a school bus sized piece of snow / ice that came off a plow and almost blew the front right corner off of it. So it took a lot of abuse from me, and it wasn't even my car.
It did take a lot of abuse.
Poor GTI.
But in the end, a noble death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I would look so forward to my bed that night. I got first hot shower, and then just because I don't think I got home until like 3 a.m.
I remember it was quite late even when I got home, and there was, I think, a stop to make after that. But I was at my dad's. I remember. That's the thing. I don't remember if I had my car, if it got dropped off. I just don't remember. I must have driven home, and I was outside in his yard, just like, well, because you're like way too jacked up to sleep, right? But you just want to.
What do I do now?
And I was just like, I was walking around like, oh my God, what the hell? And of course, you just feel absolutely horrible, or at least I did.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, I was still under the impression that I might have killed it forever.
Well, yeah, that's true too. Ugh.
Right. So that's a great story. That was like one of the reasons I wanted to bring this episode idea to you guys, is to get that story out in the public.
Finally.
My shame out in public. Thanks.
After all these years. I mean, come on. It's collective shame.
Statute of limitations, man. It's been a long time.
Statute of limitation.
Collective shame. It's lessened.
Collective shit.
It's shared across all three of us.
That's true.
Well, four of us.
That's true. And you know,
There's four of us in the car. We had another friend with us.
Yeah, and thank you for your kind comments about, you know, although I was stupid and young, at least my instincts were good.
Definitely. I've always thought that.
Yeah, 100%. Like the reaction to, like Andrew said, getting to the center of the road, and then as soon as the engine cut off, we got to get out.
Yeah.
I was like, wondered. We do? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've always wondered if the car jerking was from like the engine sputtering, or if for some reason, you just like goose the throttle a little bit, because there was a strong moment right when it first happened. I was like, oh shit, no, we're going to be fine, because everything happened to line up perfectly. We're in the highest spot, doing the right speed, doing the right thing in the water, and just a little engine sputter just totally fucked us.
Yeah, I always do try the, you know, to its benefit or not. I do take the Jeremy Clarkson way out often. You'll see a recurring theme in one of my next stories, but when in doubt, power out is a pretty solid motto of mine.
Yeah, no. That is cool. A memory.
That is a great memory.
I think about it every day because I drive over that track every day.
Oh yeah, that's where that happened.
Because some days, like there'll be a train coming by or whatever, and so I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is fucking steep as shit. No wonder. And you can see the drain. I mean, there's like a massive drain on both sides, and obviously that one was completely clogged because the whole track got saturated.
Yep. Absolutely insane. So I've got two stories that come to mind, and I think I'll let you guys pick which one you want to hear.
Do they have titles?
Well, not necessarily titles.
Like Friends episodes. The one where Nick does whatever.
So I can discuss the one when I was a sales rep in Michigan and had the luckiest / best save of my life in wintry weather.
Okay.
Or we can go off the road and talk about a kart racing story where simultaneously had the best race and finish of my life and then almost got disqualified because my mom was throwing a fit and almost got me disqualified.
That's kind of tough. I'll go best save. I'll put in a vote for best save.
Yeah, I think that one. I want to hear that one simply from an instructive standpoint.
Yes.
I don't know how much you're going to take away as like take notes, kids. Like I said, it was luckiest. It was luckiest / best save. So for listeners who don't know, I lived in Michigan for work for 3+ years. I was for the company I still work for, I was a traveling salesman, basically, and the entire state of Michigan was my territory. And I learned very quickly when moving over there that the winters there, because they're on the other side, the east side of Lake Michigan, are way worse than they are in Wisconsin. Like, I would be able to gauge how much snow I would get by watching the Wisconsin weather, taking their accumulation and adding 4 to 5 inches. So like Milwaukee got 3. The next day I was going to get 7 or 8. Like it was just like clockwork because it just picked up steam, picked up power going over the lake and just dumped it all on Michigan. So you, as a salesman, you get, I got a Ford F-150 as like a company vehicle, all-wheel drive. And it was I was driving, I remember I was leaving Lansing, which is like right in the center of the state almost, and I was heading east to like, I want to say like Bay City, somewhere that way. And it was like the worst winter weather advisory blizzard. Like this is like semi trucks were pulled over on the side of the road waiting it out type of thing. it was just the right combination of like air temperature and moisture and the accumulation coming down, where it's just like a solid sheen of ice everywhere. Like there was no chance for any sort of grip anywhere. And this was like 3 p.m. I had canceled my last call for the day. I'm like, I just got to get to the hotel at this point. And going on the interstate in the left lane, for what it was worth, there was hardly anybody else on the road. You really couldn't see the lanes anyway, but towards the median, we'll say, doing about 22 miles an hour on a 75 freeway with the hazards on, because it was also almost whiteout conditions, like 17-inch visibility.
Couldn't see the hood of your truck.
Yeah. Damn near couldn't, and it was bright red, so that tells you something. And just like you, Andrew, turned off the radio. Need full focus. Can't be distracted.
That's when it's on.
It was on. Like probably didn't blink. 10 and 2, the whole deal. And I was going dead straight. There wasn't even a curve in the road, and I didn't feel like I moved the wheel at all. All of a sudden, the back end just pitches to the left.
Ooh.
And I just start to drift. And I'm like, holy shit. Okay. So like, okay, lift off, steer into the slide a little bit, but not a ton. I didn't want to like crank it like a couple of revolutions, like in case for whatever reason it grabbed, and then I would snap around the other way. Mm-hmm. So I did like maybe a quarter turn on the steering wheel. And it just wasn't working. And I just started sliding to the right, the opposite direction, like from where I was, like the opposite lane. So I'm into the right lane at an angle. And I know like touching the brake isn't going to do anything here. So, I was just trying to play with the throttle as much as I could. I was trying to, again, just play with the wheel, and nothing was working. I was just sliding at like a 45-degree angle all the way across the road. I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't going to end well. And I could see where like there was a dip coming. Like I could see the right side of the road. Like here comes the ditch. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to hit it. If my wheels are still turned, odds are it might catch and do something weird. I'm going to straighten the wheel out and just drive into it and see what happens.
Sometimes you gotta.
So I just straightened the wheel out, went into the ditch, gunned the gas, and I popped up the other side, and I couldn't even tell. This is why I was lucky. I ended up on an on-ramp.
Hey!
Winner!
I went through the ditch, up the other side, landed on the on-ramp, kind of gathered myself, and then just got right back onto the highway that I just slid off of.
Wow, that's ballsy. I probably would have parked it for a hot minute.
And then just creep my way at 20 miles an hour to my hotel, and I ended up making it. There was no other issue. Just besides checking my pants when I got out, like there was there was enough clearance on the truck where there was like, it wasn't like a splitter piece or one of the underbody pieces of plastic had come undone or anything like that. There was no damage whatsoever. Just a really lucky save. And away I went.
You didn't have to get a nasty gram from my old boss?
Did not have to get a nasty gram from your old boss. It was, I don't think I would have gotten a nasty gram from him, to be honest with you, because given the circumstances, well, besides maybe like, why did you drive in it? But yeah, so that was an interesting day. I was equally relieved and also proud of myself. Like for whatever reason, I just thought to straighten the wheel out right at the last second, because otherwise I probably would have spun in the ditch and gotten stuck. But at least this way I had a chance to like power through it, and it worked. Thank goodness it worked.
That reminds me of a story. It was the story in which I decided to never drive home in someone else's car from college again. I'm never going to carpool unless I'm the one driving my car.
I don't know if I know this.
I don't remember
it was
this.
it was before we roomed together.
Mm-hmm.
It was Brian and his roommate at the time. They all went to KM also.
Mm-hmm.
So they all were down by us, and I was like, "Oh, you're going home this weekend? Cool, I'll go with you." And like, it was in his roommate's, beater Corolla or whatever it was, and this was before widespread smartphone adoption. I didn't even have one yet. This is like Palm Trio days. I still had my T-Mobile flip phone. So,
God, we're so
there was
old.
there was not a way. It was a Razor though, so I was cool.
Hey.
But like no one could or would check the weather on the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather was fine when we left, so we said, "Okay, let's go." And we get to like Portage, and it's just a winter wonderland, horrendous. And we're very much like your story, Nick. We're driving along, nothing seems to change, and the car just spins.
Oof.
It makes 1.5 full revolutions.
Whoa.
Winds up facing the other way.
Oh God!
But neatly on the shoulder and out of everybody's way.
Score.
And I'm like, I'm never taking a non-all-wheel drive car that doesn't have snow tires home again. You guys can just, nope. I'll call my parents. They'll come pick me up. I'm not doing this again.
Portage is like a mini Bermuda Triangle of weird weather.
It is.
Do you remember the time we were driving back up to Point Tristan, and so there's that hill after the on ramp off of Portage, or is it? Yeah, it's the off ramp actually, isn't it? Where you kind of spiral up and around. Yep. So there's this hill going up to it, and I remember we're just driving, and for some reason on the exact other side of this overpass is Stephen King's The Mist. The cars in front of us are fucking disappearing. Not a hint of tail light, not anything. And I remember Tristan, you went, "Well, I'm not slowing down." And we just boom, it completely enveloped. Still can't see anything around us, like literally not even the wing mirrors, and then it's gone.
Yep. Because the reason I said that is because I think it was the river.
Maybe. It might have been.
And because I had visions of it going away. Like, that's how I remember that, was like, right over there, it's okay, but we got to pass through this nether realm on the way. If I slow down, I'm going to get rear-ended, so I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, that drive to Point is fraught.
It really is.
That's where I smoked the deer and almost my mom.
True, and saw that other guy careen off the road. God, you could only tell stories about driving from this county to Stevens Point, which is Portage County, actually. But
smoked a rabbit in the rabbit when we were driving the GTI.
Ruined some poor girl's entire life. By absolute, this one I will tell. What were we doing? We were doing something stupid, like going to Walmart. Like, we weren't being idiots. We were just doing something that was dumb,
something inane, not important. Yeah.
Oh God, I think I've told this on the podcast before. But anyway, so we're just driving down past a dorm, whatever, and there's this girl standing by a bus stop, and Tristan's just driving along, and so it had recently rained, so water just kind of collects by the side of the curb, and Tristan drives through what looks to be just a small standing puddle of water, and while it wasn't a pothole, it contained the entire ocean, and the entire contents of the ocean absolutely dominated this poor girl. Like, I've never seen anyone get soaked so badly. in half a second. And
even in the movies,
Yeah.
like even in the movies or TV where people get splashed by a bus or no, not even close.
not even remotely close. And
I felt so bad.
all I could see in the rearview mirror was her drop her head. And that was it. She didn't do anything else. I thought that was so funny.
I feel bad about that to this day.
I am still laughing about that to this
Like,
day.
I didn't stop because clearly she's outside her dorm.
Right.
Like, you know, she could go back in and change. That's not the problem. But like it wasn't like, oh, do I need to stop and offer you a blanket or what? No. But because of that, I also didn't stop to like apologize because I was super embarrassed and I felt super bad.
It's just of all the things she could have done, like she could have. Yeah, well, you see, like they run after your car, like or like
Rage, yeah.
or flinch.
Nope.
She didn't do anything except hang her head.
Just a resigned head hang, and that's what made it worse. Like, if she had been mad and kind of a jerk, I would have been like, yeah, well, maybe you deserve it.
Exactly,
But
you can't
like,
do that.
Right, it was just like,
Oh, that was one of my favorite moments of all time.
That's funny.
How about your racing story, Nick?
Yeah, we can get into that one. So this was probably, at least 10 years ago now. Yeah, it had to be because I sold my go-kart sophomore year of college, the first one I had. So yeah, well, more than 10 years ago. The class I was racing at the time, it was a big class, and it was a pretty tight, talented group of guys. Like, there was a lot of really good racers in it. So it was a fun class to be a part of. Actually, one of the guys I raced against, I'm still pretty close with. He's in our CEP Formula One Fantasy League. Since I moved back from Michigan and got the second card, he's come out and helped me wrench on it a couple of times. Good buddy of mine. And he and I were very close in speed. And there was this one kid who was really close to our speed, but always just a little bit more. Like, he was probably consistently the quickest kid in the class. And he was a known start jumper. So a lot of like IndyCar open wheel stuff doesn't really have it too much. But NASCAR and a lot of club racing, especially karts, have very strict start rules for a race. NASCAR has their start and restart zones where the control car can only accelerate at a certain point in this window. The kart track that I raced at had cones set up about 50 yards from the finish line. And if you jumped, basically, if you were deemed that you were on the throttle before then and got an advantage, they would penalize you. If you were on the pole, they'd put you to the back of the class. And like I said, our class was pretty big at the time, and they were sprint races. So we had 6-lap heats and 10-lap features, and the class was like 12 or 14 deep. So if you got moved from first to 14th, you were basically boned. But this kid was known to leave early. Like, he was just... So this particular week, heat race number 1, he takes off early and nothing happens. So, like, they don't penalize him. They don't call it the start or anything. So I go over to the race director, and I wasn't mad. I wasn't angry. I just said, hey, those cones are there. Like, we're not supposed to leave before the cones. Just keep an eye out, because he left and nothing happened. So they're like, okay, we'll watch. Second heat comes around, same thing. So now I'm pretty mad. So I go to this other guy who's still a really good buddy of mine. His name is also Nick. So I go over to Nick's pit, because the way the feature was set up, the jumpstart kid was on the pole. Nick was second and I was third. So I just went over to Nick and said, when he jumps in the feature, just don't go. Just don't go with him. Just make him look like a fool. I'm like, I won't go, so I'll hold up the inside line. You're on the outside line. You don't go. Like, no one goes. He's the only one who takes off. He looks like a jackass. And Nick goes, okay. So we line up for the feature, and we come down and take the green. Sean takes off way before the cones. We don't do anything. Like, he is off in through the first corner before we even get to the start finish line. So they move him to the back, which moves my inside row up to the front. So like now I'm first and Nick is on my outside. We're leading the field, and we do a good start, and we go on to have, still to this day, I have not seen a kart race better than what the two of us did. Like in 10 laps, we passed each other for the lead probably 8 times. We had a photo finish. Like, we didn't know who won until we pulled in and had someone tell us who won. Like, he was in front of me on the last lap. The second to last, the last corner that's like a true corner you have to brake for is a left-handed hairpin. So I kind of lunged in on the inside there. It was kind of a late braking thing. He wasn't expecting me to come down that break that deep. So he turned in his normal line, bounced off of me. I didn't wreck him, but he moved to the outside and it gave me room on the inside. And now we were coming down the front stretch, basically neck and neck. And there's like a left-handed dog leg that you don't have to brake for right before the finish line. So we come into the dog leg, and he was probably mad that I bumped him, so he starts running me up the curb on the inside in the dog leg, trying to gain an advantage. Well, I'm trying to give him as much room as I can. I got my left side tires in the grass. I bounce off the curb into the track. I hit him again. Our tires, our front tires, like my right front gets wedged in between his left front tire and the side pod for a second, so there's smoke flying everywhere. Like we kind of bounce off one another, and like I said, it was a photo finish. We were on the cool down lap, and I pulled up next to him, and I pointed at him, and then he shrugged his shoulders and pointed at me, and then I shrugged my shoulders. Like, we had no idea. We pulled into a standing ovation. Like, people in the crowd were up. Like, the club president comes over, is like, that was one of the best races, and we're just like, who won?
Yeah. Who won?
And Nick had won. He had beat me by like 8 thousandths of a second, like 0.008 or something like that.
Hell yeah.
I wasn't even that mad that I lost because it was so much fun. In the meantime, the kid who had jumped the start did have a really good race. He wasn't close to us, but he ended up finishing third. So he went from like 14th to third. And he comes like running after us, like charging up to us like, that was set up, you cheap sons of... And he was like screaming at us. And I'm like, dude, the officials didn't do anything. So we took it into our own hands. Like, you're good enough where you don't need to do that cheap BS. Like, just have a normal start and let's just race, dude. So like, they separate us. And then it come to find out that when this kid jumped the start in the feature, when he got penalized, up in the seats, my mom had said, God, that kid is such an asshole. That kid's mom was sitting 2 rows in front of my mom.
Hell yeah.
So she turned around and was like, what did you say? And my mom like stood up and like, so then they were yelling at each other. And one of the rules at the kart club is, if someone on your crew or someone that's there with you does stuff that's like detrimental to the club, you get DQ'd. So this thing with the jumpstart kid gets diffused, like down, like between us and the officials. And I turn around and I see another club official up in the seats trying to separate the 2 moms. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I go like running up the stands, like trying to pull my mom away from his mom so I don't lose my second place finish. Oh, it was crazy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then I made my mom go over to his trailer afterwards as we were loading up to apologize.
Oh, that's funny. There are just, I mean, there are so many things about racing that sound really fun and obviously good racing. is the number one thing. I mean, I don't think I ever have the ability or skills to ever do it because I just don't really know how to drive like that. But it always seemed like a really fun and cool thing to do.
On days like that, it is. I mean,
right.
Like I said, I couldn't even be pissed off that I finished second in that one just because, like, I wasn't keeping track of the laps. Like, I saw the white flag and he was in front of me. I'm like, oh, crap. Because, like, I could have raced all day until we ran out of gas. Like, that was one of the best times of my life, really. And again, like, he and I were always helping one another. He's still good. Like, he at one point, a different story, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but we were on the grid one time and ready to roll out for the feature. They gave us the start engine signal. My cart wouldn't start. My dad's like frantically trying to adjust the carburetor, and he's taking the starter in and out, and he's trying to, is the starter battery dead, or like he's frantically trying to figure it out. Nick starts his cart, gets out as the field is rolling out, comes over, leans down, tweaks my carburetor until my cart starts, then gets in and takes off. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. So I didn't want to wreck him, but I also wanted to beat him. So it was a great time.
That's awesome.
Anybody else have any good ones? Tristan, I don't know if we have the time to get into. I kind of wanted to, if we had time, touch on our road trip back from the Sebring spring break road trip in the road trek.
In the Moose.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I'll let you kind of lead that story because I just talked for a while.
So the setup for this is that Nick, how did you get down there?
We both flew.
Okay, I couldn't remember if you flew with me.
So we flew together, and your dad had already driven down earlier, but then they were flying home, so they let us drive the road trek back.
Yeah, you flew down separately from me actually later because I was down there with my family already for spring break.
Oh, so you guys must have just picked me up at the airport in Tampa to go to the Sebring race.
Yep. Yeah, we picked you up at the airport. So my dad drove the road trek down, and I flew down, and we all met in Florida and went to Sebring, which was a great time. But, a whole separate story. I think we covered part of our experience in our, reviews of the tracks we've been to.
Yeah, we don't get into that. But, yeah, Sebring is fantastic.
And then it was kind of a 3-part vacation for me. It was, Disney with my family, and then Sebring with you, and then spring break with you. And we went to Panama City Beach.
We hit Daytona for a little while first.
Yes. I drank more Jameson than I care to think about, and got more sunburned than I care to think about. And Nick died in the car. At least that's what I thought had happened. But he was just asleep, hanging from the seatbelt, which is upsetting. So it had been physiologically a rough few days. Yep. The vampire had been out in the sun at Sebring, and then had gotten horribly burned at spring break, and was still processing all the formaldehyde from the alcohol that I drank. And we're like, all right, time to go home. And it was our duty to drive my family's 21-foot camper van home. And my dad had driven it down, and then we were going to drive it back. He was going to fly back with the rest of my family. And everything was going well until it got very, very late in Mississippi. And Nick, what happened then?
In Mississippi, man, I was thinking of, well, I guess that's going into Memphis, yeah. So, well, we were going, like, the idea was, Memphis is right on the Mississippi border, southern Tennessee, northern Mississippi. And we were going to, we thought, hey, it would be a cool stop in Memphis, just to stretch our legs. We'll get some barbecue on Beale Street, maybe listen to some blues music, spend an hour or two off the road, and then head back out. We don't get yet into Tennessee. We're still in northern Mississippi when complete gridlock, like absolute. You can get out of your car and grill your own damn burgers because you're not moving for hours type of gridlock. And we had no idea what was going on. And I think we called your mom, didn't we?
Yep, I say we enlisted mission control. And I texted my mom. I was like, "What the hell is going on in Memphis?" Because we're stuck, totally stuck, and I've never seen traffic this bad, even in Atlanta. And that made her. That was the code word for this is very serious. Because Atlanta is terrible. Right. Anyway, different story. And so she gets on the internet, looks up the Memphis news. And yeah, a fuel truck had tipped over and exploded
on the highway in Memphis.
Okay.
Yeah, on the freeway.
And had scenario, really.
Yeah, and like the fire had like melted a bunch of the asphalt and it was running off the road.
Oh shit.
And like,
didn't they say the explosion could have been seen from space or something like that?
Yeah, and the smoke plume, had we been there earlier, because it was like just getting dark as we were getting there, if we had been there earlier when this had just happened, the smoke plume was visible from like northern Mississippi.
Damn.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It was bad. So we decide to take the first exit we can. This is after being delayed, by the way. Like, we haven't eaten anything. Like, we thought we can get into Memphis by like 6 or 7, get back on the road by like 9. It's now like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and we still haven't pulled off the highway, and we're starving. And we're like, okay, well, we've got GPS or whatever. We can kind of back roads this just at least to get to Beale Street. So just get off on the next exit. So I did. And we landed in the worst neighborhood in the history of mankind. Like, okay. It was like, Tristan, I remember this plain as day. You told me, do not stop at any stop signs or red lights. You said, it's my family's vehicle. I'll pay for the ticket. Run them all. Just get us out of here.
Yeah. That was like a combination of two things. The fact that there were actually people standing around just with guns out.
Oh God. As we pulled as we got off the off-ramp onto the side street, there were just groups of people with guns at their side just watching us come off the off-ramp.
As you do.
So I like to flatter myself and think that, I'm not at least super racist and relatively tolerant of people.
Where's this going?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I usually like to think that, so I wouldn't normally have had a problem driving through a quote-unquote bad part of town. That's how I got to my apartment for like 3 years. So that wasn't a huge issue. But then I saw the guns actually out, and I was like, okay, yeah, we need to get out of here. We are 2 white boys driving a camper van through, I don't know, whatever this is, but we have to leave. So basically where I was going with that, Andrew, is my threshold for that kind of thing is relatively high normally.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so we run every intersection we could.
Flee to Beale Street.
We do. We flee to Beale Street. We do have some great barbecue. We ate at a place called The Pig, aptly named. And Tristan, I think you took home like 40 gallons of their house barbecue sauce.
Yeah, I just had them fill the tanks on the van.
Yeah. And then we get back on the road. And it's relatively smooth sailing until we got into, I believe it was Missouri, right?
Yes, it was.
This is super late at night. This is
2:33 a.m.
Yeah, and your dad had called or texted and said massive ice storms coming up through Illinois and Wisconsin, like pull over and stop or something like that.
Yeah, so we go on the hunt for my family's traditional middle of the night stopping place when we have the van, which is a Walmart parking lot, because most of them are happy to welcome RVers for an overnight stay. There's no, hookups, there's no fire rings, it's not a real campground, but you can pull your camper over and, rest there with, lights and security cameras. It's somewhere safe to pull over in the middle of the night.
Correct. So we look up like the closest Walmart, set the GPS, and when we get there, there's no Walmart.
It isn't.
It isn't there. It absolutely is not where the GPS said it was. Like, it was not. I don't know if it was like a movie theater or just an open field. At this point, I don't remember. But it's crazy. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
So at this point, we're like, because I think I had an early iPhone, but it was before they had Google Maps, and it was before they had their own Maps app. So we were actually still using like the actual GPS, like standalone,
like a Garmin
mounted on the Garmin mounted on the windshield GPS.
Hell yeah!
Which obviously was out of date, and or just flat wrong. So we look it up and we try to like find if this town has one. Where is it? Because I could definitely search the web, but I didn't have like maps yet. So I searched the web looking for a Walmart, and this town has one. So we start heading to this Walmart where the Garmin says it isn't, and I put this one squarely on me.
Yeah, you do. You're damn right you do.
Nice. We're in the right-hand lane, and the Walmart is approaching rapidly on our left, and because it's 3 a.m., I didn't see it right away, and I was trying to figure out where the GPS was ending, like where the turn-in is, etc. And probably in too excited of a voice, I go, "No, it's over there!" And basically the equivalent of the mayhem, turn right now in those commercials, and the guy like ends up on the guy's lawn.
Yeah.
It was like that. I was like, "Nick, it's over there. Turn left." And Nick just hauls the wheel over and hard to port. Starboard, I don't know the two. I'm a boat guy, but those two still weird me out. But
starboard's right.
Hauls, hard to port. So hard to port, heels over, and away we go, cutting off the cop.
Oh shit.
It's 3 a.m. in random town, Missouri. Like, there's no other cars on the road besides the cop, and I pull like a 3-lane change left turn with no turn signal right in front of the one police officer in the county.
And he pulls us over on the frontage road.
Sweet.
That's leading to the Walmart. We're like an eighth of a mile from where we're going. You could get out and fall over, and there you are. So Nick, did you end up getting an actual ticket for this?
I think he gave us, he let us off with a warning, but he gave us the runaround because it's like a large camper from Wisconsin in Missouri. And then he's like, "Where are you guys going?" And we're like, "We're just trying to find this Walmart. We're on a road trip. We need a place to rest." "Well, where are you road tripping from?"
We're going right there. Please I want to go right there.
And then where are you coming from? Where's the road trip coming from? And we were dumb. We shouldn't have said this, but we're like, Panama City. And this guy's not an idiot. He knew Panama City spring break. He's like, "I'm going to need to search the van."
Are you serious?
Yeah, he asked to search the van because he thought we were or did he just ask us if we had drugs or something?
Yeah, he was like, "Are you guys?" He's like, "Are you guys on anything? Or do you have any drugs or alcohol in the vehicle?" And we were like, God, no. Yeah.
We're just really tired.
It's like I almost told him, no, I drive too far too often to bother with that shit. But I didn't.
So yeah, he asked if we had any drugs or alcohol because we told him we were coming from spring break. We said no, we're just really tired, and we just want to literally put this thing in neutral and let it roll into this first parking stall that's right here, so we can just sleep for a couple hours. And he's like, all right, well, license. I give my license and registration. And Tristan, I can't remember if we didn't have the registration or the registration was expired.
Yeah, the paperwork was expired. The stickers were good. He had to query the Wisconsin DMV to see if it was registered, because the paperwork, the little registration slip, wasn't in the glove compartment, or the up to date one wasn't. So luckily, everybody's got computers, so he was just able to query the Wisconsin DMV for our plate number, and it was good. So,
but at that,
not a big deal. But
yeah, for me at that point though, like being as tired as I was and as frustrated as the fact that we just got pulled over and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, oh great, we've been driving cross country without fucking registration. This is awesome. Just stack it up.
Without it here, it was registered. It just didn't have the registration paperwork. It's fine.
Yeah, totally fine.
We were running red lights in the worst neighborhood in Memphis. We had a tanker truck explode minutes before we arrived into a town. The Walmart we were supposed to get to vanished into thin air. We finally find one. Now we're pulled over and we don't have registration. I was just like, my head was about to explode. But yeah, he gave me a warning for not using my signal, I think is what it was.
Yep.
And then just said, hey, sleep it off, get home safe, whatever. I think we were in that parking lot for 3 or 4 hours, just enough for by the time we were to get to Wisconsin, the storm would have passed through. So we just basically followed the storm and the subsequent cleanup, back into the state. And we got home, 11 hours later or whatever it was. But definitely crazy.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez. What an adventure.
And I never have road trips like that, like when I go with my parents or when Claire and I have taken trips, driven more than 5-6 hours to places. It seems like it only happens when Tristan's around. It's weird.
He might be the common denominator.
Why do you get?
In fact,
Well, you have the ones to and from school. Do you have another road trip story? Well, you've got the shit coming back from Canada after you drop me off.
Yeah. I was not awake for that.
So we dropped Nick off in Michigan, where he was the sales rep, as you mentioned before. We're coming back from what used to be called Mosport, Canadian Tire now. And it's very, very late again, because we keep doing this to ourselves.
Great trip. Fantastic place, by the way. If anybody's considering going, go.
You can't, because
not this year. Next year, go.
But yes, definitely go if and when you get the chance. But we dropped Nick off, and we're like, okay, we can get home from here. We don't have to crash another night at Nick's. We can definitely get home from here. We're gonna go, and we're going around Chicago, and Andrew is passed out in the passenger seat, and I'm driving, and suddenly I see a cheery orange glow. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. And we crest a little hill on the bypass around Chicago, and it is a U-Haul truck on fire. So I start elbowing Andrew wildly, like, look, dude, look. He doesn't wake up until after we go past it. and like whips around in the seat and like hangs his head out the back like, oh my God, is that a car on fire? And I was like, yeah, it's a car on fire and you almost missed it. And by the time I finished the sentence, you almost missed it, he was back asleep.
I mean, I sleep with the world's most restless sleeper and have for several years now. So the joke's on her when it comes to having a baby, because good fucking luck.
Yeah. Yep. I know that feeling.
I remember that trip, we couldn't wake him up to go to the track that one day. Like, we were trying everything. Yeah. We were knocking on the door. We were like lifting the mattress up and down. We were yelling, Andrew. And
you know what did it? Strategic use of a Diet Coke Pop Top.
See, noises I don't recognize.
Going click, 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 click. Wake up. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe I was just tired. Something.
I don't know. Something. I don't know. Something. But yeah. No, I do tend to have the apocalyptic road trips where it's like, even just coming back from Florida the last time that I drove, when Jessica and I went down in February, like everything was fine until we got into southern Illinois, Missouri, and we avoided an ice storm by like that much, and then decided, the freeways are just covered in ice. We're gonna, and it's like it looks like semis had been blown up, like contents strewn across the freeways. Jeez. Like, well, we'll just take back roads and just take it slow, because we did have an actually an admirable Mitsubishi Outlander, and it was handling all this stuff pretty well. And we didn't see one moment of rest from Southern Illinois until we got home.
One moment of rest.
I have not done as much as stressful ice and snow driving, I think, at least that long, consistently. And I was on a road trip with my dad where we got enough ice on the front of the car that although it was freezing rain, the car was overheating because there wasn't any air going over the radiator.
Jesus.
Because the front, I was driving through Virginia and there was a VW Beetle-sized rock that had fallen in the right-hand lane at night. No cops. That comes looming out of the gloom, and I go, panic steering around it. That was the same one where there was a runaway boat and a cloud of bats.
Are the two related?
Nope.
Episode title right there: runaway boat and a cloud of bats. Remember that.
It was. The only thing that was related about them, it was me driving somewhere. Like, the first time I got my driver's license and my temps, and we were going out for a test drive, my dad had taken my sister out to Watertown for a musical rehearsal, and my mom and I were going out there in her car, and it starts precipitating what can only be described as ball bearings. Just tiny little round hail, absolutely no traction and zero visibility, and it was like the second time I'd been behind the wheel. My first major road trip was back from the Audi driving experience at Road Atlanta, and we're not more than an hour from Road Atlanta, and a semi tire explodes basically in the passenger seat, and I managed to avoid that. We're driving back from Florida, my first time driving the van, and it's like just warning, like impromptu DOT warning sign, like high water, fallen rocks, intense fog, look out for this, look out for werewolves, like whatever, whatever could be wrong on that trip. I got to experience that the first time I drove a 21-foot long vehicle. Like, it was just pick a time I've gone somewhere and there hasn't been one. Well, there's only been one. There's one where there was not a calamity. And that one was a pretty damn good one. That was when I drove all the way from home to drop my mom off in Virginia, to drop my sister off in Statesboro, Georgia, and drove all the way home via Kentucky. It was like 3,500 miles in like 5 days. That one went flawlessly. But I think that's probably part of the problem. is my sheer average number of miles across so many states.
Must be.
Nick only had to contend with Michigan.
Yeah, there was a lot of Michigan. There was a lot of driving in Michigan, but
I know, I'm kidding.
Didn't and on the way to when we were all going down to Mid Ohio a couple of years ago, didn't we in Chicago, we came upon that car that was turned upside down, it had just happened. The police and the ambulances weren't even there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the time I had been to Chicago immediately before that, I had gone down with my mom, and I got to experience a guy who was playing bumper cars, bouncing back and forth between the Jersey barriers on 894 around Chicago, just bonk to the left, bonk to the right, bonk to the left, bonk to the right in the express lane. It was wow. I'm going to hit this guy eventually because he doesn't stop.
Maybe he's like a turtle shell on Mario Kart.
Yeah, it was exactly like that.
Oh, so God.
Crazy.
See, that's why I don't ever drive anywhere. It's just not worth it.
It's not that bad.
That's true.
It's just Tristan.
That's true. I got one more I could tell her we can get out of here. We're at 2 hours already.
Yeah, we got to cut a lot of fat off the beginning, so we got a little bit of time. We got time for a quick one. Go ahead.
So this is only a car story by virtue of the fact that it features a car, and it's not necessarily it's not funny, but it is interesting.
Okay.
I call it the Maroon Saab 900 story. So the most fun job I ever had in my whole life was working as a park ranger, because we'd work night shifts from 6 to 1 or 2 most often on weekends. And, our whole job was watching the campgrounds and stuff. So there'd be 2 of us, and we'd walk around the campgrounds and check the rest of the park out. And then we had a little route that we take, every pair had different routes that we went. And I was with me and Justin were on that night. So we would drive the park, walk the campgrounds, drive the park again. And then we go sit near the entrance, kind of at the at the top of this hill, where we could see the park main entrance, the road that led to the park rear entrance, and the whole front. So you could see when people were coming in. Mm-hmm. So you kind of knew what to expect. And we just sit there and shoot the shit, listen to Brewers game, eat sunflower seeds, just, hang out. And so we're sitting there early one night, probably 8:30, sun's sort of going down. And we see this Maroon Saab 900 convertible drive in. It's a weird looking car. Kind of looks like it's wearing a hat. It's a super recognizable car, right? And we see them drive down the road towards the campgrounds. Not unusual. And as we're walking through the campgrounds later, after dark, we see it sitting in one of the campground slots, kind of towards the back where it's the most hidden. And there's nothing else in the camping spot, but they have a little tag up, and we check and they paid. So it's whatever. We have nothing to do with that. A little bit later, we're sitting in our little spot there, and we see the car, the Saab, drive in through the park main entrance, which was kind of weird, but not that unusual because people would go to McDonald's. The way you camp at this place is you set up a tent and then you go eat at McDonald's. It's just right down the road, and apparently that counts as camping. So that's not a big deal. As we're doing our little drive rounds a little bit later, we see it down at the beach. But the weird thing is, when we get out and start to walk towards it, the car starts and drives away. And we're like, what the hell? So finish at the beach, go back in the campgrounds, car's not at the campsite. Okay, fine. We see it as we're driving back towards the front of the park at the far end of one of the parking lots. And I'm like, oh, well, that's weird. Maybe we'll go see if someone's in the car. Turn the wheel towards it. As soon as our headlights hit it, the car starts and drives away. And now we're like, okay, what the hell is going on? We have to figure out. I mean, we're not real cops, right? We're just park rangers, so we're not going to chase it down or anything. So we just let it go. And we see it another 1 or 2 times throughout the night. And by now it's probably 11 or 11:30. We just keep seeing it alternately in the campgrounds with no one around, or at different parts in the park where they always leave whenever we get close. And it's like, what the hell is going on? So around midnight, we're bored. And Justin's like, all right, we're going to go down to the beach. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll park up at the top. We'll take this path down to the bottom and we'll see if they're there, just to see if the car's there. So we, in the dark with our little flashlights, we take the path down. And sure as shit, the car's sitting right there in the boat launch, like nose into the boat launch, close to the water. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And we finally see there's someone in the car. And they hadn't seen us, obviously, she didn't take the truck. So we walk up, knock on the window. And it's a woman in there. And they're like, oh, hey, we noticed you've been at the park. You're up in the campgrounds. Is everything okay? And she says no. And we're like, oh, shit. In your head, you're just like, oh, God damn it. What the hell? And we're like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you need some firewood or something? And you're like trying to deflect. And she's like, no. I'm having a bit of a problem with my boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's weird. She's like,
okay.
And she's like, well, he hit me before. And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, God. And just in your head, you just like screaming. You're just like, oh, God, what the hell am I supposed to do? And the problem is, the park ranger get-ups that we had were like super official looking. Like we had real badges, like embossed in metal, name tags, and like the whole shoulder pauldrons and like creases. So they look like cop uniforms. And I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? So I'm like, okay, well, where is he? And she says, I don't know. We were at the campgrounds and he disappeared. I think he's still in the park. And we're like, oh no, like what is this about to turn into? What's happening? So, I'm like, okay, well, just give me a minute. I'm like, go to Justin. I'm like, all right, just radio the police dispatch right now. Tell them what's going on. Give them the license plate. I don't want anything to do with this. And so I just go back to her. I'm like, all right, well, I can help you in this way. So we can fill out a report where we can, do you want us to go back to the campsite with you? And she just says no. And then she leaves again. She's like backs out and leaves. And we're like, what? Well, what are we supposed to do? So obviously we go immediately to the campgrounds where there's this guy there now. And we're like, oh my God, what the hell are we supposed to do? Fortunately, the cops show up just minutes after that. And we're like, okay, yes, absolutely. You take care of the entire rest of this. And they talk to the guy and whatever, they ended up staying there together. But it was just the most bizarre thing. It's just like sometimes it's that feeling you get, right? Sometimes that intuition, when you start seeing a pattern or something that doesn't fit the regular pattern, there might be something to it. That was just like a confirmation of the fact that sometimes those intuitive feelings are exactly right. And while you can't know what it's going to start, sometimes you have to follow them.
Yeah, for sure. After that night, did you ever get any follow-up or hear what ended up happening? Or
nope, they were gone by the morning because I worked that next day as well. They were gone even before the morning ranger got on. So then they started like 6. So somewhere after midnight, but before the early morning, they were already gone.
Huh. That's crazy.
It's totally bizarre. It just, you feel bad for her, but every time we finally got to interact, like things just kept getting worse. Yeah.
Stop asking questions. It's just getting worse.
But you can't, though. That's the thing. Like,
I know.
Just, yeah, it was. Every time I see one of those cars, I obviously think of that.
That is crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I said it wasn't funny.
No, it's fine. It's a good story. I think we got enough content for this week, boys.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Awesome. So let's get the F out of here, shall we?
Yeah.
Indeed.
I'm so hot right now.
Yeah, you are.
Stop.
So thanks for sticking with us today, everybody. This was a long one. We appreciate you listening. But we don't want you just to listen. We want to interact with you we already mentioned how to find us online. So, I mean, what's your most memorable, favorite car-related story? Type one up for us. Maybe we might read about it on a future episode or something like that. That'd be kind of fun. How about this? I've got some spare can coolies from Styled Aesthetic, CEP can coolies from our friends at Styled. If we read your car story on the air, we'll DM you and we will send you a pair of can coolies while supplies last. How's that sound?
I love it.
Awesome. Cool. So send us in your best car stories. But don't just do that. We also want you to leave us a review, preferably a good one. Just find that 5th star on the right-hand side and give it a click. Or you can hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. It's free, and you'll get notified of any new content we put out. If you're really into what we're doing here and would like to support this podcast monetarily, you have 2 options for that. You can go to patreon.com/checkenginepodcast, or you can hit the support button on our homepage at Anchor. So anchor.fm/checkenginepodcast, support button right under our logo. Every cent donated is put towards making this podcast a better experience for you, the listener. None of it goes back into our personal pockets. So thank you in advance if you decide to contribute that way. Guys, who or what are we giving a special shout out to before we sign off?
I mean, probably Tristan's dad, right? Like, he didn't actually murder any of us, including Tristan. and he still let us hang out with Tristan too, after we almost killed his best car ever.
Yes.
No, I think you guys would have survived even if we had lost the GTI. But if at some point you had killed his green A6 with me, then we'd all be dead.
Well, I mean, that was never going to happen. Although I did actually drive that car on 2 occasions.
Tristan?
Yeah, I'd like to. It's a little bit of a somber thank you, shout out. Not to end on a downer, but recently my sister's godmother and my basically godmother. I don't get a lot of interaction from my quote unquote real godmother. Marilyn passed away unexpectedly, and there's a lot of my sense of humor, the literature I have read and enjoy, pop culture references that are all come down to her and her influence. So I don't think that this podcast would be exactly the way it is, because I wouldn't be exactly the way it is without her. So I'd like to say, Marilyn, thank you, and rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah, I really don't have anything that can follow that. So, Tristan, sorry to you and your family for the loss. Thank you, Marilyn, for helping shape Tristan to the friend and host that he is. And as always, thank you, listeners, for your continued support. We love hearing from you. We love recording this for you. And we can't wait to speak to you again. Until then, please send us your car stories. There may be some free can coolies in it for you. And take care of yourselves. Have a good one.